Do it. All right. I guess we're live, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's great. Are we live, Pavel?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, guys. What is it tonight? 25th of June. It's a Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock here in Ireland. So welcome everybody to this webinar, another webinar on a Wednesday evening. My name is Eric. I hope the light is okay. I hope the sound is okay. Maybe you can let me know in the chat. We have the chat open for you guys. We're going to ask you a lot of questions. But first of all, sometimes the light is not always great. The sound is not always great. Just wanted to check with you guys if that is fine tonight. So, all right. In the meantime, let me just turn the microphone a little bit. Let's see who we have here tonight. So, all right. So we got Pavel, right? Pavel is actually my colleague. You can't see him. He's actually sitting in front of me. And he's there to answer any question you may have tonight. He will answer your questions in the chat. All right. Joachim Albers. All right. Looking and sounding good. That's great. Thank you for your answer. Beautiful. So, next to Pavel, we have Ahmed. Ahmed, welcome. It's great to have you. I suppose you're here for the first time. Then we have Barbara. Then we got Florbella Encarnação. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I assume you're Brazilian or Portuguese. Then we got Francesco Baccini. Is that right, Francesco? I suppose from Italy. Joachim. So Joachim, are you from Germany by any chance? All right. We got Kim Cox, and we got Liam, and then we got Paava, Pia, and well, okay, so that is what we have right now here on Zoom. We're also on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we are on YouTube. We're actually recording this webinar tonight. So, Joachim, uit Nederland. Fantastisch, jongen. Good, so there we go. Actually, I just gave it away. I'm Dutch myself. I went to Ireland about 3 years ago. Been living in a number of places on the planet. I like to roam around. Left my country about 25 years ago, and always traveling, always finding something new. Now, it hasn't always been that way. Trust me, when we talk about confidence, it's true. I didn't have that. Yeah. So actually, what I'm going to tell you tonight is a way to get there. Okay. Now, the first question that I would actually want to ask you is, where are you from? And why did you come to this webinar? Let me know. Put something in the chat. Where are you from? And why are you here for this particular webinar? So maybe there's something you want to handle. Maybe there's something you're running into in your life. Maybe something specific. Maybe you're looking for information. But drop a line in the chat. All right, so there we got it. Florbella from Portugal. Okay, that's great. All right. Francesco, correct. Italy. All right. Ahmed, hey there. That's great, guys. Lovely. I'm just going to wait for your answer for a little bit. The intention that I have is just to give you a quick tool. With regards to confidence that would actually help you make actually confidence a bit more insightful. Like what is going on? We're going to dissect that confidence into 3 component parts. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is the mind. Yeah, what is that part of the mind that makes you feel that you lack confidence? Argentina. Entonces te llamas Bárbara, correcto. Okay, hello everyone. I'm from France. Beautiful. All right, guys. So let's get started. And like I said, I will ask you a lot of questions. People are always already participating in the chat. It's fantastic. I feel absolutely awkward tonight. I have to admit, I have to tell you, it's freaking hot here in the studio. I'm just in a blazer and a shirt, but I should have actually worn a black shirt or something that made a bit of contrast with the whiteboard. This is not going to fly if I take the blazer off. So I guess we'll have to do it like that. It's a bit hot at the moment here in Ireland. Okay, good. Now, are you okay, just as a starting question, are you okay if I ask you questions just to check with you if you're tracking, if you can understand, right, if you do get the content? Are you okay if I'm asking you questions that you can reply to? You don't have to, but it's great if you can. We put everything in the chat, so also between each other we can see, if we're tracking, if we understand the whole thing. And my first question would be, since we're actually going to talk about confidence, is there any activity that you do really well in life, that you feel that you're master that kind of an activity? Do you have such an activity? Maybe it's a sports that you like. Maybe it's a certain hobby. Maybe it's a part of your job that you feel you do that really well. Maybe you have some social skills that you do really well. But I'm very curious, please pop that in the chat. Is there any activity that you feel you do really well? All right, good, sure. All right, so Joachim, let us know, what is that activity that you feel you do really well? So maybe you're very good at soccer. Maybe you're good at tennis. Maybe you're good at, I don't know, socializing. Maybe you're good at dancing, right? Maybe you're good at, I don't know, dream up something. Drawing, okay, that's fantastic. Cool. All right, now anybody else? A tough one, all right. Well, good, let me think. All right, there must be something that you feel you do really well. Whatever it is. Maybe it's a sport. Maybe it's an activity, right? Maybe it's a hobby, right? Maybe you're very creative, for example. Maybe you're good at a certain language, or maybe you're good at whatever. All right, Francesco, planning dinners, organizing gatherings, making sure everything is in place. Okay, that's fantastic. That's very good. Laurie, teaching and cooking. Beautiful. All right. Be very bad at socializing. Let me see. What else do you say? Very bad at socializing because I underestimate myself. Fear, inferiority complex. Good at crocheting. Okay, Pia. So we're going to actually have a look at that specific thing that you bring up tonight. Yeah? I hope it's going to give you some answers. Flabella, I love my job, and some days I think I'm really good at it. However, I suffer from imposter syndrome. Okay, I got you. All right, now, all that stuff is coming from somewhere. You just brought up some areas in your life, some activities that you feel you do really well. Yeah? Now, could we actually safely conclude that in these things that you just mentioned, that you do have confidence? So you excel in certain activities. Would you agree that you actually do have confidence in these specific areas in your life? Yeah, that's correct, right? Yeah, in some parts, indeed, in some parts you do have confidence. So, don't know what's wrong with my throat. Maybe it's the top button. Let me unzip that. There's just too much tonight. Now, next question. Would you agree that you actually know something about that area? Would you agree that you know something about that activity? It's like your second nature. It's like part of you. 100%. Now, the next thing is, would you say that specific activity that you just mentioned, would you say that you're in control of the emotions, in control of the things that you do? Would you say that you're in control when it comes to that specific part of the activity that you're good at? All right, yes. Now, if anybody would ask you to take any responsibility for that activity, would you easily say yes? All right, there you go. So now we got a very, very interesting interaction between these factors. That is knowing being able to control something, and being able to be responsible for it. So let's see how that goes. Okay, Barbara, not really. Still don't think I'm that good. I got you. And that is the second part of the webinar. We're actually going to cover that. Yeah, what it is that makes you feel that you're not that good. Okay, that's totally understood. And thank you for bringing it up, by the way. It's really good that you brought it up. Actually, refreshes my mind. And but no worries, we're going to get there. Okay, good. So we're going to actually start with 3 factors. All right. So first of all, if we look at that activity, you would actually see there's something that you know about it. And you seem to know that down cold. There's no hesitation there that enters in like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not cut out for doing this. Actually, you seem to have that knowledge. There's no hesitation there. You would be able to take the responsibility to actually get started on that thing, and you could control it. Actually, these things, they all come together. Just like a little, let's say a triangle. So we call that a KRC triangle. And actually, if you build these components, you're actually going to get confidence. So if you build knowledge, responsibility, and control, you're going to get confidence. I'm going to give you a very, very simple example. Let's say you get hired to be a waiter in a restaurant, and you've never done any waiting before. Waitering, whatever it's called, right? You never have done this job before. In other words, you have no knowledge on the subject. You probably don't know anything about the menus. You probably don't know anything about the prices. Maybe you don't know anything about the ingredients. And then probably you don't know how does that whole order system, pricing system work. You know, maybe you don't know anything about the tables, the setting in the restaurant, what table is what. So there's a lot there that you don't know. So if you wouldn't have any knowledge, do you feel that you could actually be in control of the area? What do you guys think? Definitely not, right? Exactly. Yeah, definitely not, right? So we usually say, okay, I have no education. I cannot do this. I have no experience. I have no education in this. So it's not going to fly. Pavel, can you actually have a look at my battery? My battery is not running. Good. So now, if we look at control, that is actually simply the whole idea of getting started with the job and then going through all the motions to bring it to a good end. So simply starting something, just, get going with it and bring it to a good end. In other words, control, that is start, change, stop. That was an interesting thing. You just start something and you keep going, keep going, keep going until you basically have your result. Likewise, you could get into your car, you could start it, you could start driving, which is changing, and then you park it at your destination. So every time you go through that cycle, that's called a cycle of action. So if you're in control, you feel that you can start something. You can definitely change things, and you can actually get the end result. That would be control. Now, responsibility is an interesting thing because that has to do with willingness. And that is the willingness to be cause. So what does that mean? That is actually the willingness to make something happen. Right? So if you say, okay, that's fine, I'm going to be the responsible one, then you're actually going to say, okay, whatever happens, I'll take the blame. Because I make that happen. Now, the interesting thing is here, we could actually apply this to this job as a waiter. Something funny could actually happen. So let's say you don't know anything about that job, but you would simply be willing to experience the emotions. You'd simply be willing to make something happen. You say, now, you know what? Just give me the tablet. I'll walk over to the first customer. I'll take the order. You're just going to assume that willingness to make something happen. Now, as an example, let's say you would do that. You take a tablet and you take the menu and you walk over to a table and you take the order of the customer. Would you learn something from this? Would you learn something from this? Would you actually get some knowledge? You would definitely get some knowledge. You may find out how to do it. You may also find out how to not do it. But you're definitely gonna learn something from that. Okay, good. So let's say we just said, you know, I'm actually willing to try this out, to increase my responsibility. And when I do that, I'm actually going to learn something. Okay, so now we've actually increased 2 parts of that triangle. Do you think that when we do this again, we're going to be a bit more in control? In other words, it's going to be a little bit easier to start changing stuff. All right, definitely. That's cool, guys. I just see that I'm actually coming in and coming out of the screen. I hope you take my apologies. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for the answer in the chat. So now we get this. Now you've probably seen this in these activities that you're good at. You actually gain more and more knowledge on the whole thing, which is to say, maybe that knowledge is not even in the books. Maybe that knowledge is nowhere in any book written. But it's a part of your knowingness. It's a part of what you know. And this is particularly true, for example, in sports. You know what actions that you can do which will be successful. So that becomes a part of your knowingness, so to speak. And that knowingness, basically, when it's repeated and repeated and repeated, it couldn't be shattered. Nobody could tackle it because you know what you know. Make sense? So now, basically, by continuing to do that, we can actually make that triangle grow. So confidence is basically just the assurance that you have that you will just get your results. Confidence is also ability. It's basically the result of your abilities. Okay, so if that is understandable, then how do we apply that in life? Let's say we take the example of a waiter again, and we find out he doesn't know anything about restaurants. He doesn't know anything about food. He doesn't know anything about drinks, menus, and what have you. So what he could do is he could actually look at the whole thing and then choose something that he could face, that he could confront. He say, you know what? I'll take the cashier, and I'll just be the cashier, or I'm just going to do beverages only. You see, so he takes a little portion of that whole field, and he's going to specialize and make sure he's got some knowledge in that area. So, just in short, the way to basically make things go right in your life is very simple. It's just make sure you increase your knowledge step by step. And now will also increase your control, and you will increase your responsibility. So you could basically start, for example, with responsibility. Okay, good. No matter what, I might go flat on my face, but I'm willing to experience something here. Whether that's good, bad, I'm willing to experience something. A lot of people, for example, have problems to make phone calls. And you might get a knot in your stomach. You say, oh my God, that's too hard. I don't want to experience this. Now let's say if you would be willing to experience that, well, you make a phone call and you're actually going to learn something. You learn something, now you feel like, hey, I'm just a little bit more in control by repeating this thing. All right? That is just a giveaway for building confidence. You've done this 1,000 times over for the areas that you actually mentioned in the chat. You were willing to be whatever you needed to be in that particular field. You were willing to control things, to start something, to start an activity, to move that activity to a certain point. And then while doing so, you gained a lot of knowledge. Does it make some sense? All right, cool. Now, I think it was Barbara, if I'm correct, who said, I still don't think I'm good enough. Right? So we're actually going to have a look at the mind right now. That's just a tool. Maybe you actually want to make some notes for yourself, like how that could work, just as a reminder, but it's just a tool. All right? So the next thing that we want to look at is basically the willingness. Why is it that we're totally willing to do things? Why is it that we get thoughts like, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not good enough. I don't think I can do it. Which is basically, there's like a no willingness there, right? So I'm going to ask you a question. Because this has to do something with the mind. There's something there that blocks us, right? There's something there that blocks us. Now, would you have any idea if anybody knows anything about the mind? That is my question for you. I see that the video has paused somehow. All right, let me see. All right, so some people know about the mind. It's just the courage to overcome the fear, fight or flight. Yeah, exactly. Guys, I got no clue what's going on with my throat tonight. There's something wrong, but it's just freaking hot here. Maybe you want to open the door, Pavel. I think that's better. Good. So, this is the next topic, yeah? So we're going to talk about the mind. So here's the thing. What do you think is the mind? What is it? Does anybody have a definition for that? Mm-hmm. All right. Good. Guys, I'm just logging in again. Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. So it's a very simple answer. Yeah, it's very simple what it is. Essentially, we make recordings. So here's a quick drill that you can do. What I would like you to do is think of primary school. Just think of primary school for a moment. And when you think of primary school, see if you actually can get some pictures. Maybe you can get pictures of the playground, outside the courtyard, inside the let's say the corridor, the classroom. Maybe outside you can actually see the building. You maybe can see the size of the building, the colors of the building, the roof, the windows. Now, quick question. Did any of you guys actually get some pictures? Did you actually get to see some pictures, some flashes? Yes, you got some flashes, you got some pictures. Okay, great. That's amazing. You guys are amazing. You're so chatty. I love it. I don't know what to do with my voice and you're just chatting away. Maybe you should just take over the webinar tonight. It's fantastic. So I'm going to do a little sketch here. Let's say that's your body. And your mind actually is just pictures. So you make a whole bunch of pictures. Right. Now there's something very interesting something very interesting about these pictures. Which is the following. These pictures, they don't have any mass. You cannot touch them, right? You cannot size them up. You cannot put them on a scale. You cannot feel them. So now you have this funny apparency that there's something there that you can look at, and at the same time there's nothing there. It's a very, very interesting thing, right? Because if we look at physics, everything's got mass, everything's got dimension, right? Everything exists in space. This is very different different when it comes to your mind. Your mind makes these pictures. They don't have the mass. They don't have the dimensions. So let's see how that works. Okay. Let's take it one step up. Now, what I would like you to do is imagine that you're sitting again in the favorite chair, or your favorite chair, in the living room in the house where you grew up. Maybe you can do that. So just think for a moment that you're sitting again in the house, in the living room where you grew up, maybe as a child, as a teenager. See if you can actually get a picture. Do you get a picture of the living room now? Can you see, for example, the window? Can you see the TV? Can you see the table? Can you see the curtains? Can you see the door? And let's put this to the test. What I would like you to do is stay seated in the seat where you are. And now just point out, where's the TV? Just point it out. Where's the TV? How far is it away from you? Do you actually see the TV? Can you get a picture? Can you see the size of it, its colors, the shape? When you have that, let's go and find a table, any table in that room, and let's point it out. Where's the table? Is it right in front of you? Is it somewhere about you? Where's the table? Maybe you can actually see the color of the table, the size and the shape of the table, its height. Maybe there was a little carpet on it. Maybe there was even a remote control on the table. Maybe there was a plant or a vase or whatever on the table. See if you actually get that picture. Now, if you have that, I would like you to find a window, any window, and just point it out. Where's the window? Now size it up. What is the size of that window? Does it have blinds? Does it have a drapery? Does it have curtains? What's that window about? What's the color of the window frame? Finally, if you have that, where's the door? Would it be in front of you? Would it be on your side? Would it be behind you? Where is it? Now, all right, were you able to do this? Were you able to do this and actually pinpoint these different objects in the room? All right, cool. That's great. So now what we see from doing that is that these pictures are three-dimensional. They are 3D. Now there's a very, very interesting thing going on here, because you could actually take a picture from your mind, look at it again, and then basically see the whole living room again. In other words, you are recreating, it's very key to understand, you are recreating these pictures. So let's just, because I'm going to come back to that subject, you are recreating these pictures. So you just take a picture of the living room and you recreate it again, and there you are. You got the same living room again. All right, you just grab a picture somewhere from your mind and you look at it again, and there you have it. Now it's an interesting thing, because we've been told that all these pictures are in the brain. But probably during this drill you didn't say the TV is over here and the window is over there and the door is over there. Probably you didn't do that. You probably said, well, it's about me. So there's something else going on. For that reason, these pictures are called mental images. Okay, so we get a whole bunch of these mental images. Pavel, maybe you can help me. Zoom is actually turned off on my screen, just on my screen. Here on my screen. So these are called mental images. Now we got something really interesting. You just look at these pictures, right? Now what happens, quick question for you guys, what happens if you have to speak in public? Well, let's say you have to do an exam, or let's say you have to go to a job interview. Do you actually get nervous? Do you actually start to feel uncomfortable? Does something like that happen? So whenever you have to go to a job interview, whenever you have to speak in public, do an exam, do you actually feel nervous or uncomfortable? Okay, yes, most of the time. Yes, anxious. All right. Okay, very much, of course. All right. So what does that mean? What does that mean? There's something there that now controls you. And we would say this is really a bad type of control. You don't like this control because it gives you a knot in the stomach, right? It gives you this anxiety stomach. And you may have seen that, for example, when you have to speak in public, you get that knot in your stomach, your legs start to shake. Maybe you got a paper in your hand, but you can't keep it still. And then you get this phenomenon that I have right now, a dry throat, and you have to keep on drinking. And on top of that, you cannot really access your memory. It's like you're completely blind in terms of like, what was I going to say or ask? What was I going to tell? The whole thing is going blank. Right? You've probably been there, experienced that. Right? Now that's a pretty strong form, but it can be actually, it can be mild and it can be very severe. But it's always when actually you're running into this problem when it comes to self-confidence, that's what's there. There's something there that takes over the control over you. It starts to control your body and it starts to control your mind. And that's a bit of a weird thing. And we're gonna dive into that. So now we just looked at primary school. We just looked at the living room. Did you feel any kind of a sensation coming up, like an emotion? Or did you feel some kind of a discomfort or some kind of an unwanted feeling that something like that happened? When you just looked at primary school, when you looked at the living room, that something happened there. Okay, some kind of a feeling, nostalgic. All right, cool. Yeah, nostalgic, I'll say. Good, fantastic. Good. All right, now, I have another question for you. So what would happen if you look back consciously or even unconsciously, inadvertently? Let's say you look back and you look back at a moment of a loss. The moment that you lost your best friend, the moment that you lost a family member, the moment that you lost an animal, the moment that you lost something that was really dear to you. What happens if you look back to a moment in the past which is about a loss? What is going to happen? So maybe I should actually articulate the question. Would you more or less feel that same emotion again? So if you think back of a moment of a loss, somebody passed away, somebody disappeared, somebody went abroad, somebody broke up with you, and all of a sudden, there was no longer any communication possible. That's like a moment of grief normally, right? Like we associate grief with loss. So if you think back at a moment of loss, would that grief come back to you? Or sadness, yeah? All right. Yes, grief. Okay, it could be fear. Exactly. Good. All right, beautiful. So what does that tell us? It tells us that in these recordings, in these pictures, there's a lot of things which are recorded in these pictures. So we look at the living room and we actually see colors. We see dimensions. We see shapes. We can actually go back to a specific moment, hear sounds again. We can see activities in the room, motion, people walking around, things happening. We can pick up sounds. It's all stored in these pictures. Now, what's also stored in there is pain and emotional pain, such as grief, such as let's just say it's emotion. So let's say we were just happy. Now, something reminds us in a certain way, and now we start to feel a different emotion. Let's say we have a moment here that, let's say, is your grandfather or is somebody that was very dear to you, or maybe it was a dog, or maybe it was a cat, a pet. Let's say that person always drank out of a certain cup or a certain, yeah, let's say call it a cup, a mug. That person always drank out of a certain cup or a certain mug. That has been recorded. Maybe that happened a long time ago. Now here in present time, we are in present time, we're happy, and all of a sudden, we see that same mug or that same cup again. What do you think your mind is going to do? How do you think your mind is going to react? It's a reminder, all right. That's very good. What else could happen? It connects the item and the feeling, right? It brings back the emotion, all right. There we have it. That is spot on, Barbara. So what your mind is doing, or I should say what our minds are doing, this is true for pretty much everybody in the human race, is that our mind misidentifies. So it now tries to warn you that loss is imminent, because you see this again. That means that you're most likely going to experience that again. Now obviously that is complete nonsense. However, there is a mechanism in the mind that makes that happen, and now we get a mood change. Now, have you sometimes noticed that you had this sudden mood change, this drop in mood, and you had no idea where it came from? Has that ever happened to you? You were perfectly happy, and the next moment, you don't know what happened, all of a sudden you felt sad, or you felt not that confident anymore, or you felt a bit worried and anxious. It's crazy, isn't it? You know, it's just, poof, suddenly you're a different person. That is actually what happened. There was something in the environment which triggered a previous experience. Now, all this is not that bad. However, that controlling your mood, controlling your thoughts, you're no longer able to think clearly, kind of like directs your body in no longer in the same direction. And what happens here, that whole mechanism of control is automatic. Why is it automatic? Because there's something there that automatically changes your mood. You may have gone from happiness to a different emotion. Okay. I think this is kind of clear, right? This is kind of clear, right? I want to give you another example. Just before we go to the other example, just want to check with you if this makes a bit of sense. Yeah. Totally, huh? Okay, that's cool. Now, step number one is very good to become aware that we have this funny mechanism in our mind. It's a kind of like a protection kind of mechanism, but it doesn't work. It works for animals, but it doesn't work for human beings. Because if you're perfectly happy and just an unknown cop, because you're scanning around and there's just something there that you didn't even consciously spot, triggers something earlier and your mood has changed. The problem is you don't even know what made you change. So that means anything can make you change, right? And now there's something that automatically runs and controls you, and that's not what we want. Because basically what happens here, we are no longer in control and we no longer know. And now we can no longer take the responsibility. You see, we come back to that KRC triangle. All right, now we're going to do another example. We're just going to step it up a little bit. We're going to take the same kind of example again. Let's say we take Joe. Right? And Joe also has a mind. Now let's say Joe got attacked in a dark alley. He got attacked in a dark alley. He walked into a dark alley. He got hit in the back. The next thing was Joe was unconscious. He woke up. He was in pain. It was dark. He felt very confused. And he was robbed. Let's say that whole experience got recorded somewhere. Okay, present time. Joe finds himself going into a dark alley. What is Joe's mind going to do? All right, feel unsafe. What else? Would you go back to that moment? Exactly. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the important thing to realize. Joe was awake here. So if we do a sketch there, let's say he was alert up to that moment. Then he got hit. Now he went unconscious. He remained unconscious for a while. He woke up again. And there his consciousness continues, right? So he was conscious, he went unconscious, he remained unconscious to the moment that he woke up again. And he regained consciousness. When he regained consciousness, He was in pain. It was dark. He felt very confused. And he also noticed, hey, I got mugged. My wallet is gone. My ID card is gone. My bank cards are gone. My money is gone. My jewelry is gone. Let's say that happened 20 years ago. Now, he finds himself walking into a dark alley again. Normally you would say he has no recollection of what happened during that moment because he was unconscious. True? We would say, well, he couldn't possibly have any recollection because he was unconscious. Actually, that is wrong, because that whole incident was actually recorded in the mind by means of these mental images. Now, when Joe looks back, he can't just grab a Polaroid and hold it in his hand and inspect the Polaroid picture by picture to see what happened. He made pictures of it, but these pictures are now below his awareness. So now he's got pictures there that basically mixes up the things that he knows. It ruins the things that he knows. It ruins his control because something controls him automatically. Joey could actually see the dark alley. Now, that picture would get reactivated, but Joey has no idea what is he looking at. Make sense? Yet he will behave here. What's going to happen? He might actually start to feel some pain. He might actually start to feel discomfort. He might actually start to feel very confused, not knowing what to do. He may get a thought, oh my God, I'm probably going to be robbed again. So in other words, this is dramatizing. So dramatizing is like reliving the same moment from the past again in present time. You've probably seen one of your parents or your friend or girlfriend do that. It's like you put a needle on a long play record and you play the same song from time to time over again. So, oh, I've seen this behavior before. It's strange behavior. It's just dramatizing. The person is dramatizing something. Now the problem is, how do you switch that off? Right? How do you switch that off? So, what we have here, this moment, is a moment of pain and unconsciousness. And any element, any factor in that moment can be reactivated and now force Joe to behave in that same way again. So now you want to talk to your boss, but your mind is already telling you he's going to fire me. Or you want to talk to a customer, and your mind is going to tell you he's not going to buy from me. And you're being asked to do a certain task at work, and your mind's going to tell you, I won't succeed. All kinds of funny thoughts. So here, apparently, it seems there's no phrases in there. Now, my question is, have you ever seen hypnotism? Who of you have ever seen that, hypnotism? Person being hypnotized? Yeah. All right. Well, some people have seen it. It is basically very simple. It's not what we're doing here tonight, but what you do with hypnotism is basically you give a person a command while he's kind of like unconscious. And then you tell him that he doesn't know anything about it. It could be like, whenever I touch my tie, you feel very warm. Whenever I let go of my tie, you feel cold. And now you must forget. And the person will actually dramatize that command. He wakes up, and the hypnotist touches his tie, and he's going to take his jacket off. The hypnotist lets go of the tie, and he puts his jacket on. And to him it seems completely logical, but it isn't. He's just obeying something in that incident. Now, here's a funny incident. Let's say we have a robber here, and he knocks this guy unconscious, Joe, and he tells Joe, next time, take your shoes off. You're going to run faster. And there's a phrase there recorded in the mind. What do you think is going to happen here? Would it be possible that Joe gets the bright idea that he actually needs to take off his shoes so he can run faster? Would that make sense? Possibly, right? Exactly. Yeah. So here you have the mechanism of your own limitations, your own funny behaviors, your own reason why you can't do certain things, your own the very reason why you don't have that confidence. There's something there that blocks you, and it runs on full automatic. It will just signal you to not do something. That sounds familiar, right? So you want to do something. There's a willingness there. Remember that word responsibility? There's a willingness there to do something. And now at the same time, you're telling yourself, I definitely don't want to do this. There's a no willingness there. It's the exact opposite. And the exact opposite is holding a kind of like a warning. Something bad is going to happen to me if I do that. And your mind is going to use all that force to make you tremble, to make you nervous, to make you feel very uncomfortable, and to shut off, blank your mind. Now, if we look at these moments, it could be like surgery in a hospital. It could be an accident. It could be, it could be birth, right? Even as a kid, when you burn your hand on the stove, you go unconscious for a little bit, and you basically get to again. For a moment, things shut down. You get your I don't know, your fingers, the door closed on your fingers. Same thing. You get all these accidents. There's one more thing there. So you have these moments of pain and unconsciousness. That is a specific moment. However, we have also experienced losses. So when you suddenly get bad news, you do the same dip. All of a sudden you're not that aware anymore as you were just before you got the bad news. So now we have these moments of pain and unconsciousness, recordings. We have losses, recordings, and everything that connects to it. And now we got a whole bunch of bric-a-brac that every time we're trying to do something, that stuff gets reactivated. And now it results in we can't do what we want to do. Does that make sense? See that we actually have to speed it up. I'm going to take a few more minutes of your time. Now, all right, so keep in mind, these pictures, they're not tangible. Now, we just looked at the living room, we looked at primary school, and I made you aware of these pictures. And that is the very trick. That is the very trick to basically get that negativity out of your system. So how does it work? There is something there that you don't know about. Stuff there in your mind you don't know about, but it controls you. The moment that you do know about it, it will no longer affect you in a bad way. It will no longer control you. So your body stops to shake. You stop being nervous. Your heart is no longer pounding. You no longer have a dry throat. You can just be yourself, and you can actually use your full recall. So what is the trick? The trick is actually to raise your awareness of what these pictures do in your mind, so you can actually become cause over them. There's actually a method that you can do. You become cause over these pictures. And the moment you have actually seen these pictures in full, they lose their negative force over you. They lose that content that makes you trigger all the time. Basically, you can just be you. Now, just a final diagram. This means you have a portion of your mind that is fully analytical, and you got a portion of your mind that just causes trouble. This one keeps you down all the time, and it crushes your confidence. If you raise the awareness, you will actually find out what is the content. And by doing that, it loses the power over you. So you can actually just put that stuff in the trash. Like, that was an experience that doesn't help me. So I can just trash these recordings. And you just stay analytical. What happens when we do that? Our IQ shoots up to 140 or above. A person becomes very healthy because his body is no longer out of balance because of the stress, but his body will actually nicely be balanced, right? And he becomes quite a magnetic individual, because he's no longer really doing these funny mood swings. He can just naturally be happy when he wants to. All right, so guys, I don't want to take more of your time. Just a quick question. Do you like to know more on the subject? Would you actually like to know more on the subject? Would you like to know how it works? I must say that I'm very happy that the door is open, even though I'm just looking in the corridor, but my throat at least got better. And I'm very happy with you guys with chatting away. All right, so I guess the whole topic came across a little bit, right? All right, so Ahmed, yes, please, especially about trashing the picture. I feel like I know the picture, but I find it hard to trash it. Exactly. All right, that's very good. All right, Barbara, yes, how to identify those negative moments, mental images. Yeah, so I guess you can see this is very plausible, right? It seems like a possible theory that could actually work, because when you look at things, actually that makes some sense. We have seen this. Sometimes we were dealing with a problem, and then we spoke with another person about that problem. It seemed like a huge problem, and we talked about it. Basically, what you did was you actually looking at your pictures, and then all of a sudden, poof, I was gone. I said, gosh, that was actually simple. Why did I make that so complicated? Right? Because basically, you actually had a kind of a therapy for yourself by just looking at that stuff. You raised your awareness on those pictures and you found out what it was about and it no longer bothered you. Yeah. So that is what you can do. Now, there's a book that I want to recommend to you, and that is actually this book. It's called Dianetics. Let me see if I have that correctly in the camera. Dianetics. That means dia, through, netics, coming from nous, meaning mind, through the mind. That is what, basically what we cover tonight is a tiny little bit coming out of this book. This book goes in way more detail. It's the only book on planet Earth that accurately describes what is your mind, how does it work, and how does it hold you back, right? It sold 22 million copies in 50 languages. That's actually how big it is. It's a very unique book. It's got a glossary here in the back. Right, this is my own copy. It's got a glossary here in the back. So basically, it's a book that has its own dictionary. Now, the first part of the book is all about what is your mind? Yeah, how does it work? What is that single thing that holds you back every time? That makes you act like you're acting against yourself. And then the second part of the book is all about the method. Yeah, what is that therapy? How do you actually erase that stuff and put it in the trash bin, right? And the way that it is described makes things very simple. And as a matter of fact, it's like, let's say you study cars, and you would actually get a book on cars, and you find out that you can actually take this book to your shop and actually use the knowledge that's in there, and start fixing it. Same thing here. You have a manual on the mind. It tells you exactly what it is. It's a whole adventure about you, and it tells you how to fix yourself, right? The book has films as well, and what is the beauty that I want to offer you tonight? That book normally is 20 euros by itself. It's probably 20 pounds in the UK, but it's 20 euros by itself. It comes with free shipping. We have actually gotten some donations, and that is to say that that book actually also comes as an audiobook, plus an ebook. And I have just a few of these audio/ebooks left over. So for anybody who would like to have this book tonight, I'm going to give you that audiobook and the ebook for free. So you can actually download that on your phone. While you are, let's say, washing your dishes, you could listen to the book. While you're commuting, you could actually read the book from your phone. Yeah, and it comes as an extra free gift with anybody with the book for anybody who would like to have this. Once again, the book will actually give you that one single thing that ruins your confidence. It tells you what is that one single thing that ruins your confidence and how to get rid of it, how to boost it. I'm going to have you actually, I see that Pavel just put the link for that in the chat. We're going to keep the offer there until 10 o'clock tonight. So it's going to be available for an hour. And my colleague assured that we can do free shipping all over the world, which is quite something. So you can actually have that book in, like, let's say, Brazilian Portuguese, or in Portuguese. You can have it in German. You can have it in French. You can have it in Arabic if you want. You can have it in Hindi. You can have it in 50 different languages. All right? Have a look. Let me know if that is something you like. Click on the link and see if it's something for you. Now realize this is not for everybody. It's for people who are looking for knowledge about life and actually want to improve their lives. That's what this book is for. And obviously, this is to improve your confidence. I'll just wait for a little bit, guys, and then I'll wipe the board and I'll be ready to have some questions if you have any. Any questions, guys? I can tell you a little story about myself. I was talking about, for example, making phone calls. That was like a phobia for me. It was something I couldn't do. Right now, you see, there's not much hair on my head. When I was younger, there was plenty of hair, but I would not even call the hairdresser. I would not even call the barber. The phone was something that was totally scary for me. I couldn't think with the subject of phone. Fortunately, lived in Holland for a long time. Everything is flat there. So I was just able to get on my bike and then paddle to town, come back an hour and a half later, and I would have an appointment with the barbershop. Kind of ridiculous, right? But that portion of your mind can direct you to do impossible things which don't make any sense. Basically, because of Dianetics, I got rid of that. And actually, it turned around completely. That thing that I couldn't do before was something that after, when it got handled, I became very good at. So at the beginning of the webinar, we were talking about think of something that you're really good at, right? Now, there's a part of your mind that whenever you have a bad experience, it might actually wipe out all those things that you're really good at. There's a whole bunch of things that you're really good at, but you can no longer be good at it because your mind directs you to do the opposite. And it's quite funny, every time that you find you have a certain fear about something that you can do, and you handle that with Dianetics, it just turns around and it becomes the opposite. It becomes a certainty. It's just miraculous to see that happening every time. So for that reason, this is the most widely used practice in mental health. Guys, any questions? So anybody who wants to have a, let's say, a personal chat, that's possible. I could actually leave you my WhatsApp number. Or anything else you want to know. Just waiting a bit for a personal questions, if any, and otherwise we could probably end up for tonight. So there's my number, but I will just put it in. So I realize I'm actually pushing perhaps that book on you, promoting that book heavily. You'll find out it's going to change your life. It definitely changed mine. I know everybody else. So how long did it take to overcome your issue? Gosh, a bit hard to say. Like this actually, you increase your awareness on a gradient. There's things that I've handled in terms of certainty in a couple of in a couple of sessions, like let's say 10 hours. With the phone calls, honestly speaking, I wasn't even aware of it because I actually started to kind of like go from not making any phone calls to making phone calls a bit hesitatingly. And while I was getting my sessions, all of a sudden things simply took off and things became quite fluent. It probably took 20 hours or something. It wasn't much. Right, Maria, sometimes I feel low vibration energy for some people, and then I feel somehow lose my confidence, feel frustrated because of the energy. Yeah, there's a webinar on that, which has to do with narcissism and which has to do with knowing who you can trust. Look out for that on Eventbrite or Meetup, because we're actually covering that. Yeah, that's the influence of somebody else that another person has on you. That's well spotted, by the way. Now, if you want to know more, feel free to send me a WhatsApp. I'm gonna end up, guys. Thank you so much for staying late, for being here, for being so responsive in the chat. Just fantastic. So I enjoyed it a lot. As I don't recall that I had a dry throat. It must have been more than a year ago. So I'm going to be very happy to go down to another area which is nice and chill and cool. So thank you, guys. One more thing I wanted to say. We have a group in Dublin, which is, what it's called again? Tools for, you can also find us on Tools for Life in Dublin. This is in Dublin 24. Every Tuesday from 7 to 9, we do in-person workshops. Yeah, make things even more practical. Where you can actually experience things right away. You can get a hands-on experience. So that is on Meetup. It's called Tools for Life. That's the other group that we run. And I think next week we're going to talk about communication. So that's all for now. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.